I'm so excited. This is round 2, and we just had a little pre-podcast kind of. I was telling you that it was so fun to go back and to listen to our first episode. It was episode 30. I'm definitely going to put the link in the show notes because just to take in your energy and the incredible information that was exchanged in that conversation was such a great feeling for me. And it was just, it got me so extra excited to be here with you again. So thank you. Thank you. I'm really looking forward to this talk right now.
I'm so happy to be back. I was like, of course I'll come back. This is incredible. It was such a great experience doing the first one, the first round. And I feel like you're always so tuned into really a depth of getting things from people that are important. And it's so nice to kind of be challenged as a person on a podcast. Sometimes you're just answering questions and sometimes you really have to think about what you're saying. And I deeply appreciate being here.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, I feel like our dialogue is so easy between us. It's funny because let me start with this. I'm an artist. I'm particular about my space and I'm thinking deeper, especially knowing I'm going into conversation with you. I'm very sensitive, meaning I can feel messages behind words. I can feel energy. And then when I think about my home, I'm very sensitive to my home as well. Like before I'm in a podcast, I'm very neat in general, but like I want things to feel very fresh, vibrant, put away, organized. I mean, you can't see my bedroom, neither can our listeners or our viewers, but I know, I can feel. It's that feeling piece that's so potent. And I'm really excited to talk to you about lots of things, but specifically even that particular point of conversation that we can expand on, because when I think of, Feng Shui, and I would love for you to first give like a traditional kind of, because I know that there's many forms, but like what is Feng Shui, and then really roll it into your approach to it. And then really just kind of go back to this concept of, energy and feeling and how people may not be aware of it, but your home, your environment is affecting your feeling. So it's I gave you a lot to start with, but
this is a great start.
So perfect.
One of the things that I talk about a lot, and it's something that we could get into great depth with, but it's something that on a very core level, we are energetic beings, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. We all agree. I think everyone listening will agree. We are energy on some level. Yep. And we also have all of these different energy systems. We have people think of the chakras. They think of having an aura. Even your heart has a magnetic field, which has been studied and which has been quantified. And we're communicating not just with our words or our gestures or our eyes. We're communicating with our energy. You've seen people who walk into a room and they're smiling and you go, something's wrong.
Right.
I don't know what it is, but something's wrong with that person. And it's because they're communicating that no matter what this all looks like. Yeah. Your home can look perfect and still be communicating a weird vibe. And that's what perplexes people sometimes. They're like, I don't understand why. Your home is an extension of your energy field. Your home is where you are acting the drama of your life. Like you need a place to be. So if you think of it as like mind, body, spirit, also place, right? You need a place to be.
Right.
So Feng Shui is the art and science of basically creating an optimal space for you to thrive. Some schools of Feng Shui have rules where you put this in this corner, this in this corner, this here, this there, this color here, this color there, or your birthday or your compass directions or something else, which say what is optimal for you.
Right.
I don't believe in that because you are not a template. You are not just like anyone else where you just do certain things and then boom, it's done. You have your own way of seeing the world. You have your own preferences. You have your own history and your own desires. So I found it was so lame to think that you just put a bunch of stuff in a corner and then
Right.
luck's taken care of, or
Right.
you follow these rules and, chase the bad luck away and bring the good luck in. I don't believe in any of that. I believe in you. I believe in me. I believe in people's power. And I believe that the way that you talked about your space, the sensitivity to your space, the awareness of how it affects you, that is the magic of working with Feng Shui and working with place. So I've taken all that superstition and all of that template out of the mix because it's simply not valid. More than ever, we are striving. I think most of us, probably everyone listening, is striving to be their most self-expressed individual. And that doesn't happen by chasing luck. It happens by making luck.
I love that.
So that's how I feel about all these things. Now, when it comes to the thing that I think you mentioned, which is so powerful, even if you can't see it right now, it's still affecting you, is because basically everything around you is connected to you.
Yeah.
We form bonds with objects, even random things. If you've ever had a t-shirt you can't throw away, you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever had a blanket from your childhood that you'll hold on to forever, you know what I mean? And it seems so silly. And yet even the most random things we can hold on to because we create connections to it.
Yeah.
And so we're communicating with all of these objects. And just because they're behind a closet door or in a bedroom in another room or someplace else, it's still a part of our energy field. So a lot of my clients say, well, we don't have to include my garage in the house, right? And I'm like, no, of course you do.
The nemesis of my life. I've recently just attacked it and it feels so good. But that is such a great example because you can't see it. It's a garage. Are you kidding? It's like a pebble in your shoe, like low key anxiety, annoyance that's always like living with you until you address it. Right.
Yep. And so it's all of those things that I've seen just what the many levels of what happens, even from something basic like decluttering, which I think has more research behind it, more science behind it now, backing up all of these amazing things that happen when you clear clutter. That's beautiful because clutter can affect you in so many levels. Decluttering can make you more creative, can help your stress levels, your actual stress hormones. This is all science. Decluttering can do so many things to make you focus more, to make you feel better. One of the reasons why you probably love to clean your home completely is that focus that you got and that feeling of being present. All of these things have actual scientific studies behind them now because it's something practical that people could wrap their heads around. And I'm so glad that there are so many studies because it's really propelled people to see, okay, this is important. Like I can't just leave it in the closet, leave it in the garage. I have to actually confront this. But part of what I think is interesting and what I think is unique about working with Feng Shui is what happens after you declutter. You could condo your house, which is beautiful and amazing, but then what?
Right.
Then you have all these things to optimize, to energize, to activate, to create. So it's really about creating this whole rather than just eliminating what you don't love.
Right.
But how do you then structure what you do love?
I love that, because, okay, look, you're a Feng Shui pro. How I see you're above all, you're an artist, and I see you as an energy artist, someone who is not just focused on an external harmony, but an internal harmony, and really synthesizing both. Because the truth is, like, to validate everything you just said, is that it is an inner outer experience. I mean, we are living an inner outer experience, right? In life, period. So, it is so important to realize that your external space is influencing your internal space. But you know what else is cool that I noticed? So when I was a young girl, I'm forever young. Let me when I was in my teens,
you are now.
I know exactly. That's why it's like, I can't say it that way. I'm 42 now, but in my teens, when I would clean my room, it was shove everything in the closet, put everything underneath the bed, right? Like the pile of clothes and, And then it was in my late 20s that in early 30s, like the decades of my 30s is when really everything just started to just really change. Meaning specifically in my space, because everything just got more intentional, particular. I found that I needed and wanted and created more space, more harmony. But what's so interesting is that during that period of my life as well, things were internally changing. My diet, my fitness, all of that was happening at the same time. And it's just fun for me to reflect back, because one would think if you just noted, like paid attention to me as a teenager, you would never necessarily put together, that girl who used to pile clothes in her closet and, or under the bed. Now you walk into my home and everything has its place. Everything is intentional. I'm more of a minimalist. And it's really like how you do anything is how you do everything kind of thing. So I would love for you to talk about that even a little bit, because I know in your journey, and we dove into this in the first episode, but you've experienced, you had health issues, back in the day, and things that were really disruptive in this harmony sense inside of you. And that also did propel you to move towards Feng Shui and, your whole, career life now, right?
Yeah, it's interesting how, and I think it's beautiful that you naturally had this progression. You naturally realize when you feel really good and your outside doesn't match it, you're more compelled to change it. So that's inside propelling the outside. But also when you make the outside feel really good and you don't feel good inside, it helps you to come up. So I always say, like, your home is sort of like a life coach. Like, your home is influencing you constantly. So if you're not feeling good, or you're trying to make a change and it's hard to make internal changes instantly, like, things take time to become habits and to become integrated. And I think people are way too obsessed with like overnight transformation. Totally. It's like, it just like all or nothing type of a situation.
Right.
It doesn't mean you can't be awesome all the time, but if you're changing deep habits and all sorts of things, those things take energy.
Yeah, because it's behavior change essentially, right? A magic pill doesn't give you the behavior change.
Right.
Right.
But when you start structuring the space around you to support you, then you don't have to think about it anymore. You don't have to be obsessing about it or remembering or reminding yourself. Right. And you just see it. You see it and you just feel more elevated and you feel more purposeful. And, you might have like, people say, oh, crystals do this. I love crystals and the messages of crystals. I don't believe that a crystal makes you rich. But I do believe that a crystal with intention can be something you see and you're constantly reminded without having to go through some sort of long process.
I love that.
Okay, this is about my power. I'm not sitting in my power right now. I'm questioning myself. If I put this on my desk because I wanted to be reminded that amethysts are power sources. They charge everything. That's one of the things that amethysts do. If you put other crystals by it, it's thought to like clear and charge the crystals. They sort of generate their own vibes. Like, there's so many beautiful things about amethyst. They're universally awesome. And I was like, this is what I want to feel about me. Yeah. And I personally have a tendency to get burned out by too much excitement. I know that sounds crazy. That might be a conversation for another time, but I've gotten burned out from being like, everything's amazing. Yeah. And I've had to learn, like, I put this on my desk to remind me, okay, get back to your center. Like, everything is so great. Yeah, there are all these amazing things. Things are great. Back but we to need you.
No, I get that. Overstimulus.
And it happens, and no one really takes it into account. People are like, oh yeah, okay, you're burned out from too much joy. Poor you. I'm like, believe me, I am not saying poor me. I was just shocked. I didn't know why. I was like exhausted, burned out. Like, my adrenals were shot. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Like
it's that
what?
harmony piece. I see the word that just will, I'm sure, continue to come back throughout our conversation because it is still, I mean, excitement is, and nervousness, right? It's like the same, um, physiologically, you feel the same thing, right? So it is almost like it's like a healthy dose of stress, right? So I can see that could have, that could be the case for you. And that's one thing that I love about you. There are several things, but I do love the integration of the science and sometimes when we think about feng shui and crystals and I don't know, it could be this very kind of hippie, like, oh, it's all, no, there's science. There's science, there's truth to this. Like when you're talking about decluttering, which I really want to unpack with you. This is really valid stuff. And I love your approach, even going back to the piece about luck. You have a from my, what I've discovered about you and really just kind of paying attention to others, you have a very unique approach. You have a very unique voice and methodology with feng shui that I personally just really love and value because I'm a science geek. But I'm also, I'm an artist. I'm a creative. You are an artist. I mean, you went to Stanford. You got was it degree in art history? Am I remembering that correctly? Which is so amazing. And it's interesting, that's not far-fetched to me. To me, it all makes sense when I think about you and what you're doing now. And then to have that as your background, specifically because your unique approach is, like I said, you are in my opinion, you are an energy artist and what you do with your own life and how you guide your clients and the people that work with you is how do you synthesize this inner outer harmony? And you do it with this creativity, with a bit of mysticism, but science is so integrated. And I love that. So the piece with the crystals was so powerful. And I think a great, place to go back to and really unpack is the decluttering piece. Because I have to say this before I pass over the mic. There are times I loved what you said about your home, your environment is like a life coach. I'm an empowerment coach. I'm here. I'm in the arena of self-mastery. That is what I guide my girls in, right? Self-mastery. And there are times where one might not realize like your distress, your frustration, this feeling, like go clean your room, go wash the dishes, do that pile of laundry that's been sitting there. Like you're not realizing it consciously, but it's bothering you. You fix that. And even if it won't fix the issue at hand, like that, it takes your vibration up. I would love for you to talk about that and specifically around decluttering, because like you said, it's powerful and there's more science and research coming out to really back this up, how it's affecting an individual.
One of the things that I think it's amazing that you said, it's like when something's wrong, go clean something, go do something. Like to me, it raises your vibe. It also puts you in the driver's seat of life. Like you're no longer the effect of life. So one of the things that is sort of key, there are three key ways that I work. One is with infinite possibility. The other is creativity and your creative awakening. And the third is your intention. And it's all founded on the idea that you're creating your life. If you want to believe that possibility is endless, that means that you are responsible for embracing and creating and moving into more and more opportunity, and seeing all that possibility, right? It's not just infinite possibility, come find me and knock at my door. And one of the ways that you open up energy is by becoming more of the creator of your life and seeing in your environment those things. Okay, every time you said exactly what you said is what I do personally. When I feel like, what am I doing today? I'm like, I'm going to put the laundry in and I'm going to wash the dishes and I'm going to mop the floors and everyone knows when they call me and I'm like, I'm in the middle of mopping. They're like, she's starting something. Like that's how I get myself into a space where I'm like in it in the day. I'd love to say I wake up every day and I'm like creatively ready. Sometimes I'm like, what am I going to do today?
Yeah.
Especially now, like there's nowhere to go. Like, what am I going to do today? Like,
Right.
what am I going to do? And I have all these things to do, but like, what am I going to do to make it awesome? And I will literally start mopping the floors or burning incense or lighting candles with intention or cleaning the windows or doing something.
Yeah.
And, that's really the way in. It puts you in the driver's seat, like being the creator of your life. So I ask people often, do you feel like you're creating your life, or do you feel like you're sort of responding to things that happen? And for most people, I'd say, especially people who have been working on their own personal development, most people are like, oh, I create my life, except maybe for this and this and this and this. So it's kind of a mix. It's not an all or nothing situation, but it's about looking at those places where you are kind of just accepting what comes to you, or feeling like you have to be chosen or picked, or, you know, somehow discovered, or someone knocks on your door, or luck arrives. What are those areas? And declutter all the stuff in those areas of life. And get into the driver's seat in those ways. And that to me is where amazing things start happening, because you start realizing, because I don't think anyone is 100%, no one would be listening to a podcast like this if they weren't interested in being in the driver's seat of their life. Right. But it's about really seeing, and we all do it. I'm doing it too. I have areas of my life where I'm like, it'll just work itself out. It'll just figure itself out. For years, that was like my whole fitness thing. I've always had this thing where it's like, oh, it'll take care of itself. I'm healthy. I'm fine. Blah, blah, blah. And then finally this past year, I was like, well, the start of 2020, I was like, and I'm going to be doing Pilates and rebounder and all of this stuff like every day. And I'm not doing this anymore. And it was so interesting to put myself in the seat of all the people who I'm talking to all the time in a big way, in a place where I resisted it, which was fitness, which is, I know that's a big part of your journey.
Life. Yeah.
And I was like, I haven't done this in so long. I feel my posture is so strong. My core is so strong. I can do all kinds of things I couldn't do before. What was I waiting for? Like, what was I thinking? And so I'm always looking for new ways to find places, especially the ones where I've been resisting, to declutter and to create the space. And to really, I had to set up a part of my house that has like Pilates mat, my Zoom stuff, like all this. Like I was like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
I got a rebounder at the start of the quarantine. I was like, I don't have the choice to sit this out. Like, I'm doing this.
I love that. And I'm so happy you're doing that. Because
it was weird, because at first I was like, am I going to be able to do this? I could bounce for like 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden I was like, I could bounce for 20 minutes. And I was like,
that is a good feeling. The progress. Yeah. Well, and let me just draw a parallel here. You know, when I, oftentimes on my Instagram stories, I talk about, you know, I get up and I always move first thing in the morning, and that looks different every day. You know, it doesn't have to be the full on training session, but movement, sunlight is, after meditation, journaling, and reading is essential. It's part of my morning ritual. And in my stories, you know, I'll say like, I'm about to get into my body, because that's literally what I'm doing. I'm getting into my body. And I talk about this. This is teamwork here, right? But you got to activate. You have to, you know, get connected, because it's not this thing where, okay, to be very conscious and present, and to be very unified with this system of systems, you have to get into your body. So now when we think about the home, and the home is like a body that you're living in,
it's part of your energy field. Exactly. And it's getting into your home, feeling at home in your home. And so all those things that you tell people to do, wash the dishes, do the laundry, like all these things, it's like, how is that going to help me make money? How is that going to help me do this? How is that going to, I promise you, it's going to help you. Just do it.
You know, it's so true. And there's two things I want to say about that. So one of my amazing girls that I coach, it was like a reverse. So I'm the girl who doesn't want any dishes in the sink, right? My kitchen is clean. I clean while I cook, and I wake up, and I love waking up and there's a clean kitchen for me to make my herbs and my whatever. I love this about this particular client of mine. She's like, at night I leave a few dishes in the sink because in the morning when I wake up, this is my time. She uses this because cleaning is very meditative. That's how she meditates. Like she'll go and because she could drift. And, I imagine like when you're, what am I going to do today? And you're like, okay, I'm going to clean the floors. It's like you're putting yourself in this mode of meditation, right? Can you speak to that? And then I want to talk about abundance in the home. But I thought that was such a cool, unique approach of hers where I'm the opposite of that, but I really respected that. And I would love for you to kind of just, unpack that a little bit, because I think there is something to be said about this whole kind of meditation experience that one can have when they're cleaning.
Well, it's so interesting again, and that example points perfectly to the idea that we're all so unique.
Yeah.
Like, you can't take someone's process away from them. You can, I feel like so many people are fighting against their nature, and that's what's causing the most issues. Like, it's so hard when you're trying to force yourself not to be someone else, but to behave like someone else, where there's this one suit of wellness. There's one way to move. There's one way to think. There's one way to eat, or there's several ways, but you've got to pick a lane. Your lane is you. And so what is meditative for you? Like I talk about this a lot. Some people I know have a very difficult time sitting down and closing their eyes and meditating. It's just not their thing right now.
Right.
And so they think, well, mindfulness is not for me. And I'm like, no, there's so many other ways to be mindful. Draw, paint, doodle, go for a walk. Like just take your headphones out. Don't bring your phone with you. Like just let yourself just be, or shut your phone off, keep it with you if you want, but just let yourself be. Don't try to achieve anything. Just give yourself some time to daydream. Lay on the couch, look at the ceiling, play with your animals. All this stuff is meditative. It's not just, of course, there are benefits to closed eye meditation and different forms of it, but not everyone is there or wants to be there or operates that way.
Right.
And I think that's so important to acknowledge. That's why I don't go into someone's home and say, put this in the corner, put this here. You must do this. You must do that. Because it's like, no,
it's not one size fits all. Right.
I had a woman who had to paint, she had her home feng shuied and she had to paint one of her rooms brown. Wow. And I was like, why? That's crazy.
Tan, maybe brown. That's interesting.
And before she wanted to work with me, she was like, you're not going to make me paint my house in different colors. Right. And I was like, no, why? And people, that's one of thousands of people asking me, because everyone thinks there's just one way and one good feng shui and one good way to meditate and one good way to do these things. But ultimately, at different points in your life, probably what was meditative for you is no longer meditative for you.
Totally. Well, that's another thing I love about you. You are you flow, you're very harmonized with nature. And another word that comes to my mind, and this is everywhere with you on your Instagram, I want to talk about Mercury Retrograde with you. I mean, we're in it, because you have I've never heard anybody talk about Mercury Retrograde like you. The word that I wanted to say is empowerment. You are very empowering in all of what you do, your approach, the way you share things, the way you create, it's all leading an individual to empower themselves. Like you were saying, to be the creator of your life, actually, to be living, on purpose and not just by default, and not just reactionary to whatever life's throwing at you, but to be calling in that which you desire. And I love that about you. It's so unique. Especially when we think about, the typical kind of feng shui, like you said, it's like, don't put a mirror, over there, because it's like, we don't have to go into who created that, but it's just to say that I really value how you really work with, not just an individual's energy and to empower them, but also taking account that things change and you want to be fluid and moving like nature, right? That's how you're going to optimize and keep yourself feeling great. Yeah.
One of the things that I've done for years is I do these Feng Shui camps, and they're these
Yes.
inexpensive programs that are 8 weeks long. And once you're in them, you can come back. So now people have come back for 7th year at this point.
That's right.
And it's like wild to think about that, but it seems like it was yesterday. But every single time you go through the material and every single time you look at your home, you're working on whole different things. Like I thought, maybe I need to redo the whole program. I've added things over the years because I'm never satisfied with I want everything to get bigger. I learn new things, but I see that even me going back to the material, I'm looking at it with different eyes. Like there's nothing that ever stays the same. You're either going up or you're going slowly down or down.
Right. You're devolving versus
you want to just keep it all on a great pace of evolution that feels good to you, but also that is connected to you. That's not outside of you that you're forcing upon yourself. And I think, I don't know if you know this about me, or if I don't remember if we talked about this last time, but one of the ways I got sick was from wellness.
No, we did. And please go there. No, we did talk about, and it's so good to,
and it wasn't, and I say this, not to blame anyone or certainly not to point fingers at people. It was my approach to everything. And I think it's an approach that's, now that wellness has gotten so popular, this happened to me 16, 17 years ago. But now that it's become so popular, what I was doing was considered underground and weird, and people thought I was crazy. Right. But now it's so common that I think more and more people are having this happen, which is, I thought somehow, some way, I thrived in academic environments. I thrived in structured environments. And in real life, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do, how to structure it, how to bring my energy places. And I wasn't satisfied with any of the work I was doing. So I thought there was something. I was working in the arts. I was doing all these cool things, but there was something that must be broken about me. It had to be my childhood. It had to be all these problems that I had. I had, all of these things that were real. I had we all have real struggles. Right. And I thought something broke me and I was going to fix it. And I was going to do whatever anyone could tell me how to live. So I went on this journey, literally, of people, tell me how to live, tell me how to eat, tell me how to think, tell me how to do this, tell me how to do that. And I would hire, I would work with, I would follow, I would go to, I would show up at anything and everything under the sun that could give me that. I wanted this answer. Right. And so I found myself just going, I was all in with everything and 12 things at once. And I was nonstop, absolutely 100% committed. And most people are thinking, that sounds great. It wasn't great, especially when it was all about getting to this infinite place that didn't exist. This place where I was going to be magically fixed. And then suddenly I'd never have a doubt about anything I was doing. And all the answers would be there and everything would be fine and la-di-da. No, instead I drove myself pretty much crazy. And I was at a level 10, just everything fell apart. You name it, every single thing came crashing down on me. I wasn't sleeping enough. I was running. I was running around. I was physically running, hiking, doing all those optimizational things. I was doing all this spiritual work and other things and everything I could possibly do, and cleansing and diets and fastings and things. And I collapsed. And I found myself in the hospital through a series of events that had nothing to do with what anyone did to me. It wasn't like one person led me down a wrong path. If you go to people who specialize in telling people how to live, they will tell you. And so I just took it all in. I was like, tell me. Yeah. This was my creation. And I basically created my rock bottom where I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. I had this huge autoimmune reaction and I was just leveled out. And it was when, that cliche quote at this point from J.K. Rowling's rock bottom is a solid foundation upon which I built my, my empire, whatever.
I was going to say empire.
That was what, I don't remember the full quote, but it was that rock bottom truly, where I was like, what matters to me? What the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm never going to be perfect. I'm never going to have this fixed. I'm never going to figure this out. Maybe I'll go back. I thought I was going to, after that, I was like, maybe I'll just go back to having a normal job and I'll get a PhD and I'll go be a professor somewhere or something. I don't know. All I knew is that I was going to follow my energy from there on out. And I was my being well, for real well, not well in some fancy way that involved a lot of things that were really strenuous.
Yeah.
But really well was my first priority. And so I had to figure out how to heal myself, which was one whole process that took like a year and a half. And then out of that, I found Feng Shui, but I couldn't hire someone to do it for me because I knew my tendency that I was going to have someone come. They were going to tell me what to do. I was going to follow it. I was going to get obsessed with, did I do it wrong? How do I do it better? How do I do this? What's lucky? What's not lucky? I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not giving away my power to another belief system or another person. And that's when I just said, I'm just going to study this myself. And that's when I learned. And then I started experimenting and I just did it for free for years and started putting my own things and taking things away. And I was like, if you're not paying me, then I could do whatever I want. And you just tell me what happens. And so people were into it and it worked and it kept working and certain things didn't work and I learned, but it just evolved. So this isn't just like I woke up one day and said, here's my method. I figured it out in my head. It was like years and years of doing this for fun and realizing as I was doing it, every time I helped someone else, my life changed too. And I was like, this is really cool. And so it kind of found me, but that's how the whole thing happened. I had given away my power to so many people and to so many belief systems. And again, no one forced me to. This was my choice.
Right.
And I see people making these choices all the time. And I'm like, oh, just trust yourself.
Well, I mean, listen, that story really, affirms when I say that you come from a place of empowerment. I mean, ultimately that's what you pivoted. You were giving your power away and then I actually, and I'll show you when we're done podcasting, but it's not out yet. I have the example of it, but I designed my very first guided journal and it's because journaling is I've been writing my whole life and it's really exciting. And the name of it is the title came out in one of my writings years ago and it was this profound moment. The title is You Are the Path. And even in my coaching practice, it's not about my way. I'm not here to give you my way. Sure, I'll share things that work for me if they resonate for some reason. Okay, wonderful. I'm here to present the path that is in you. That is the most, because when I think about, living your story as you're saying it, I'm like, you're essentially, it's not to say that external guidance doesn't have its place. It certainly does.
Absolutely.
But it was almost like you were operating, totally correct me if I'm wrong, just kind of going back through the story. It's like you were operating from such a place where you felt like there was so much lack that you were just trying to fill and fix and fill and fix. And yet inside, and I believe that we all have, or the larger majority, I never like to speak in absolutes, but the larger majority, I mean, we have an internal guidance system. One, you can call it many different things. I call her my intuition, and my intuition at this point in my life is me 24/7, 365. It's not a fleeting moment of, it's integrated, and it's integrated for a lot of reasons. But the primary reason that will go right to, specifically where we were with you is that I chose me. I choose the path that is me, the authentic me. I am not, I take the scenic route in life. I'm not interested in the shortcut, the fast route, because it doesn't offer the same experience and wisdom and all the things that you get. So I'm sure even in your journey of healing yourself, I mean, that took a year, you said a year and a half or something, that must have been a very, powerful year and a half for you in so many ways, not just to heal your body, but what was, internally, emotionally, all of that stuff, how you had to have connected on a kind of higher frequency with yourself, essentially, is what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, and what how do I say? I don't want to say, oh, I'm sorry that happened, but it's almost like I can frame it like this. When I was 17, I had 3 knee surgeries. Essentially, long story short, that is what put me on the path to become a biology, to discover the passion that I have for biology, neuroscience, everything really related to human potential. But I went through painful years to, try and get myself to homeostasis or to get it. So, you had this rock bottom moment that, didn't feel good. But at the end of the day, when you look back, you're like, but that brought me to where I am. So I'm sure you honor that as well, right? Just that whole process.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not a unique story that illness brings you to the world of wellness. You know what I mean? I think it's how people assimilate it and how people work with it and move from it. And, I just recognized that one characteristic, and then I started to see it in other people as well. And I was like, it's not just me.
Yeah.
And I started to see that there are lots of disciplines, this whole complex of disciplines that is literally about you follow these rules and then you get this result. And, even strict yoga practices, which I have all the respect for people who practice them and who feel connected to them. But for some people, physically, that's not even possible for them.
Yeah.
And so, people used to feel like, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do this. And I'm here, like, part of why I do this is because, like, you really can change your home, even in little small ways. You can shift things in your life. You don't have to shift them all overnight, but you can. And it doesn't take, there's that all or nothing, or that big philosophy of like deep transformation, instant, blah, or even not instant, but I'm not interested in transforming someone into someone else. Ever.
I love that. No, I love that. And it's okay. So you just said several things that are so important I want to pull on. I think oftentimes, well, first, let me just say this. I love that you are very thoughtful about the process and it not being this fast forward, hurry up and get there kind of thing. I mean, when I think about my home, even from our last conversation, so in like 3 years, basically, my home has been through so many changes. And, about 3 years ago, I remember just really starting to go, like, slow it down rather than just getting the thing that looks cute or pretty and then like putting it. It's like, no, I'd rather stare at a blank wall until that one thing really comes to me. And I just have to have it because I'm so connected with it. And that has been huge for me. And now, again, I am more of a minimalist. But when you walk into my home, everybody feels there's an energy. The beach is my backyard, but there's not a lot, but you can tell that everything is very intentional. It's there for a very specific reason, which feels good. So I do value the not, changing overnight process. And in that statement, I want to talk about something that I feel could be very valuable right now to a lot of people listening. I think a lot of times, people can feel very overwhelmed by their home, right? Overwhelmed by all the clutter, by all the stuff. What are some, if you have like a couple of pointers, strong tips to help someone just start the process, to not be so overwhelmed, because we know that then that nothing happens, right? Because it's this daunting project. What are like 1 to 3 tips that you would guide an individual to take that daunting energy away and just put them into action?
One of the things I think right now, specifically as we're filming this, as we're talking about this, that's overwhelming is like being at home so much. Even if you love your home, that's a real thing. And the energy can get heavy, even if you're not upset or fighting or having anything bad happen. You really need to shake things up. So one of the first things I have everyone do is some form of energy clearing. I don't care what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It could be opening all your windows if you live someplace like we live and you don't live on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Opening all your windows can be amazing. Putting on a fan just for a few minutes, even if you have like overhead fans in rooms, turn them all on, get everything moving that's been just stagnant, or you've experienced it so much it feels the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's one great place to start to get energy flowing. Also, there are things like burning herbs, having, incense, doing all sorts of energetic space clearing. But the biggest energetic space clearing is cleaning. So one of the best things you possibly can do that's also practical, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed, is to do a little bit of cleaning. Not deep cleaning your whole house, but maybe dusting. Dusting's a great one because it's minimal effort. If you have like a little feather duster, or you have Swifter thing, or you have like a microfiber or even a cloth of any kind, just dust down all the surfaces that are around you. Get up on things and dust if you want to feel even more special. Try to go from high to low because you don't want the dust to fall on things that you just dusted. So start with the high things and then move to the low things. Whenever I forget that, I'm like, damn. Start high, go low, then move your way down, dust things, and you will feel already a shift. One other way to approach this is to just start by cleaning the spaces you spend the most time in. So your workspace, if you're like Zooming all the time, your desk, everything, get into a habit of cleaning it more frequently. And that alone will make a huge difference. So once you have those little basics together and you feel like things are moving, start slow with things that you want to change. And I always tell people, start with something you do every day. Like it's those everyday things. Like you wake up, what's your nightstand look like? Do you have like 12 things on your nightstand? Books and things piled up. And you might think like that's not so major. It is, because that's you seeing first thing in the morning, I have all this stuff piled up here. I see it all the time. Like just make that your project for a day. Just put everything back into place. Like so simple. And then you can move on to something else and something else and something else, and let things build naturally. Don't force yourself into some sort of like, I'm going to do this all tomorrow, because that invariably is like trying to run a marathon in a day.
Right.
You train for a marathon in a very specific way where you build up and build up and build up. And sometimes you have a longer time, but you're rest days and taking days off. Like for anyone who feels like they're overwhelmed with any sort of project that's a big long-term project, go look up a marathon training schedule. No, I mean it, because at the end you're supposed to run all these miles all at once.
Right.
But in order to get there, you're running these little tiny increments of like, when I first started training for a marathon, which I never ran, but I trained, you go like, it was like walking for a mile, running for a mile, and doing that for a week. That was like the first week. I was like, how the hell am I going to be able to run like across all of Los Angeles if this is what I can do today? And then soon I was doing like 12-mile runs, and I was like, how am I physically doing this? Like this wasn't possible before. So
build the base. You got to build the base. Yeah, for sure. That's why I have a saying, inches make the mile, because I think oftentimes people are so hyper-focused on the macro, but you don't realize that the micro shapes the macro. It's literally what makes the big. So it's like all these little choices that we make throughout the day, essentially make our life, right? So going back to what you were saying, it's these, because people feel like it's ineffective. That, like you just said, how am I supposed to run a marathon when I'm only doing this? And then fast forward, you're running 12 miles because there's a process for a reason, right? So I love the nightstand, example, because one might feel like, really, just that, like, that's not gonna, no, it will, because the more that you become acquainted with that space becoming vibrant and not cluttered, and it becomes more of a habit for it to not live that way. And then that, it's like the whole keystone habit thing. Then that starts to move throughout your whole house and everything, right? Because everything affects everything. So that's a great example. And I really love that you brought up, because I didn't even think about this. It's like so genius actually that we're actually having this conversation at this point. I didn't even connect that dot. But the fact that people are more in their homes than they've ever been, which really just puts so much more people are working from their home. I mean, I work from my home, period. But it just puts more emphasis on the fact that, your space really needs to be a space that feels good. And you do have more control, over it. This actually is a great segue, because I want to talk about abundance and how you can cultivate that in your home. I'll tell you this, Dana. So I have a whole Pinterest home, right? The next home. This is my neighborhood. Like, I actually have pictures. I know the floor. I'm in meditation every day. I'm there. And it's beautiful. And I really, really am looking forward to being in that home. Now, I've been in my home for over a decade now, right? And it's interesting. We talked about this in the last episode. I literally talk to my home. I'll come home and be like, hi, not every day, but like, I love my home. When I sit down to eat, it's ceremonial. I talk to my food and I look in my space and I'm just like, I love you. How could I not? You house me. You give me love, security, pleasure, joy. So sorry, I start drifting, but when I think about my future home, where I'm coming from in that, as I'm channeling myself towards that home, is not from, and everybody's home is different. So, but I'm just sharing my life, my example. It's not because this home isn't good enough. I see that home as literally like the grown-up version, the extended version of this. So it's all the love, all the beauty, all the joy. And for sure, things will be newer and things, but I'm saying, like, I think there's something really special about being really harnessed in this feeling of fulfillment where I am. And of course, I've cultivated that feeling. And that's what I want to talk about with you. Like, I created my space, right? And so, because we know you can move into the most beautiful, expensive, brand new home, and it could just feel like shit. Like, it just has nothing. It really comes down to you, the individual, the person living in the home, to create that energy. And specifically, I would love to talk about abundance. I mean, I know you have cash camps, and just abundance is a big part of your conversation always. So if you could talk about that concept of, and really like how someone, maybe a couple tips on like how to make your home feel more abundant, and not necessarily, that doesn't mean you have to go drop a bunch of cash.
So I love all of these things. And the fact that you cultivated such a connection with your space is really where it all begins. Like, that kind of deep appreciation of where you are. Like, I think a lot of people are like, I hate my house and I need to get a new one.
Right.
And I'm like, that's like saying, I hate my relationship and I'm going to go find a new one right now. We all know what happens when you do that. You find the same one that looks different. Right. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what happens. And it doesn't mean you have to stay in the relationship you're in if it's terrible, but it means you got to kind of reconcile all of those issues, whatever they are, so that you can then move with, move on to and something truly new.
Right.
You can't kind of be wrestling with the old and bringing the new in at the same time. And that's why a lot of my clients at the very beginning, especially, it used to freak me out. I used to think I was possibly doing something wrong. Again, this is like for free. I was like, people would do their house and then they'd move and they'd be like, I just got a new place. And I was like, did I do something wrong? And then I realized they would move and it would be the progression, and what all the things they did in their house helped them to get ready for this next step. Now, that doesn't happen as often these days, but what I do notice is that a lot of people think that moving, just like you think that the new job, the new thing, the new whatever is going to be the solution to the whole thing. It's going to fix all the things. Sometimes it is, but not until you've really reconciled all the things about the situation you're in now. And that's why I think it's so important to make the most of the space you're in, even if it's temporary, even if you're renting and you want to own a place or whatever it is, making the most of your place ultimately will bring you to the next space.
Right.
And when it comes to abundance, I know one of the things you wanted to talk about was Mercury retrograde. So there's a few things about Mercury retrograde, and this one specifically, but I know this will probably be out after this retrograde is over, but mark it down on your calendars for next time. One of the things about Mercury retrograde that I love is that it's really like a cosmic slowing down. And that's a huge thing for all of us. Like, one of the things I was saying early on in this episode is sometimes I get so excited, I get like almost burned out from it. I have to like,
tone it down.
And so when I recognize that like it's being present is not just because you're in chaos or you're stressed. You could be really excited and busy with exciting things and still not be as present as you could be. And so whenever there's a Mercury retrograde, it's like a symbolic slowing down, like slow down and pay attention to the details. And I find that the details, when it comes to an environment, sorry, I'm like,
it's okay.
All of a sudden coughing for no reason. When it comes to an environment, the details are the magic, and it's the little teeny tiny details. And I don't mean micromanaging your home. What I mean is going through your home and looking for the one detail. And I pointed this out when I did a YouTube earlier. So that pot behind me, there's a new pot coming at the end of the day. When I got this tree, it had this pot. And ever since this tree has arrived that's behind me, it has subtly made me crazy. Because it has this grow pot. It has a great big label on it if I were to spin it around. And it has like a plate under it right now as I'm waiting for, I couldn't find the right pot to get for it. And it was just a silly, petty, stupid thing. Now I spent a very tiny amount of money on this pot. I didn't buy like a $2,000 pot. It's like a basic, simple thing, but it was subtly driving me crazy. And it grates on me. And just like what used to grate on me was my light switch covers. Do you have light switch covers that are plastic in your house?
You totally just, they bother me.
Yeah.
They're old. And I just look at them and I'm like, I'm going to change you. I swear I'm going to change you.
Even if you don't want to invest in new metal fancy ones, you can actually just get a pack of fresh light switch covers for like a few dollars and switch them all out. And it might cost you $4 or $5 to do your whole house. Like those little things.
I love that you just pointed out that is one thing in my home that actually does. You just hit like a trigger. It's so It's forever because it's so universal. Like universally, people are like, especially like sometimes I'm like really surprised because you don't think, again, it's not things that are top of mind that you think about. Like the first thing that, you do when you walk into a place isn't like, let me look at the light switch covers, see what they look like. Like you just flip them on and off, but you're seeing them all the time. You're touching them all the time. It's a funny thing, the things we don't realize. And that's what I mean when I say the details. And it doesn't mean to scour your home and nitpick all these little things. It's this stuff that just you have a reaction to. Like you have a reaction to your light switch covers. I have a reaction to that pot that's going to become like part of someone's garden after my new pot comes today. Really emphatic about these details because usually it involves very little money or no money at all. Most of the time it's an awareness and it gives you an opportunity to make a choice that's deliberate. So if you were to go on, to the hardware store and buy like a pack of light switch covers today and switch them out in your house, you would probably feel by the end of the day like a whole new person. It's a weird thing. Dana, I have two waiting. I bought two. I just haven't put them.
There you go.
I'm doing them today.
Yeah.
But see, okay, so I have to just say this too about you, because you have, and this is a big statement in this day and age, your emails are the emails that I read. I love getting your emails. Truly, they're just so thoughtful. The frequency, the vibration of your emails are just so upbeat, so empowering. And there's one, you just like, because we're in Mercury retrograde right now, and every time we're in Mercury retrograde and I get your emails, it's so pleasant. And because the larger part of the conversation around Mercury retrograde is like, oh my gosh, brace yourself. Like things are going to go wrong. And, I don't like that. I don't like, first of all, like it goes back to everything that we're saying. It's like, no one's telling me what my life is going to be, high or low, right or wrong. It's my mindset. It's how I'm directing my attention, my energy. So stop with this. I do think there's something interesting about the whole technology things that can glitch, but just wanting to point out, the way that you approach Mercury retrograde is so powerful and empowering. And I really love that you just put that in this conversation, that it's just this period to really slow down and pay attention to the details, because that's more often than not what people aren't doing. It's just so easy to overlook or pay attention to the bigger things. But this is a great period, like you're saying, to not micromanage, like you said, but just come into more of an awareness. And that's a beautiful practice, right? The muscle that you always want to be flexing anyways, right?
Well, it's like those little subtle things, like, to take it back to fitness, which is my new thing that I've really had to, whenever you're doing something new, you have to pay more attention to it.
Totally.
Which is why I love learning new things, because it really gets me into a place. If we talk about meditative, to me, it's meditative to do Pilates, because I've done a lot of yoga. So I kind of think I know it. So I go on automatic more often than when I'm doing something new. And learning this has been so interesting for me, because I'm like, oh, I am acutely aware of things I wasn't aware of before. And I'm paying attention to all of these subtle movements and details, and how are my ribs, and how are these things that I wouldn't do normally. And when you talk about cultivating abundance in all different ways, it's that whole saying, again, another cliche saying, you do the same things, you get the same results. When you start really getting into bringing more you to the things that you're doing, they become richer. They become more dynamic. Like one of the reasons, and I'm always so honored when people say they read the emails, people for years are like, why do you waste your time writing these emails? Like you have so much going on. Like you have to write them all the time. I'm like, it's my most favorite thing to do. Like that's important to find that there are like most favorite things for you to do and really do them. And it doesn't matter what other people think, or if it's a waste of your time or not a waste of your time. Like it's not a waste of your time if you are invested in it. And I feel like that's the energy in terms of your home and your life that really is attractive. Like an example I use all the time is, who are you going to more likely to pick as your surgeon if you had to have a surgery? A doctor who is just like, okay, like whatever you need, I'm just going to do it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I'll get it done. Or someone who's like, I've studied your case. I know exactly what's going on. I've been reading journals. I'm so passionate about this. I want to help you exactly with this thing.
Yeah.
There's no question.
No, absolutely. No.
And everyone thinks business is like this whole big nebulous, but I'm like, no, it's literally who you would hire.
Right.
Is who's going to hire you. Like, it's the same thing. Like you feel so good. Even when you go to the grocery store to pick out produce, and the produce guy's really into the produce and he could tell you which thing to get. You're like, I'm going to go to that grocery store and I hope that guy is there, because like I always get the best stuff.
Totally.
You start to see that you gravitate toward the things, the people who really care about what they're doing and who really bring themselves to what they're doing, even in weird ways. You know what I mean? Like it might be completely unrelated, but you just go, yes, I get this.
Right.
You know what I mean? I want to be here. You go to get coffee from the person who always has something cool to tell you about that they read on the internet. You go and do something else with someone who you have a connection with. People who bring themselves to everything.
Totally.
And
And that is
So
in your email. Like your emails really exude that passion and that authenticity. And I can feel that you're in a state of joy when you are creating these emails. It's felt. And so it's truly like, there, obviously your all your information will be in the show notes, but I really want to encourage our listeners and our viewers to go and subscribe to get your emails, because they are, they're just like a little burst of love and, a higher vibration, positive energy to take in, which, and these days it's like we're inundated with emails. So it's a very big statement, and it's obviously very honest. I've received your emails for years now, and I love them.
I'm so honored. And, I guess that's the only thing I could say about them, is that I truly love them. And usually I write about a lot of things that I'm doing. And that's, I think, forgotten about a lot, is like, you matter, even if your job has nothing to do specifically with you. Even if you're doing something that might seem like it's not your passion, you still matter. You're still doing the job. Your energy goes behind the things that you're doing. So it's this, how you approach your home, how you approach, as you said earlier, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah.
It's that little bit of extra, the little bit of extra detail, the little bit of extra presence that communicates and starts to open new doors. And I'm a big believer that if you start with where you are, you will make tons of money. It's not about necessarily for everyone quitting their job and starting a whole new thing and going into the wild. It's like, start with where you are, use what you have.
I love that. So, I know you have, I did your cash camp. God, I want to jump in again. It's so fun. Your camps are fun. You have a couple of different ones. This thought just came to my mind, when I think another kind of daunting thought for some people when it comes to home, outside of like cleanliness and decluttering, is design. And, because, some people aren't naturally, maybe creative or artistic, and that I shouldn't say creative. I think everybody has a form of creativity, and it's just tapping into it, which is what I feel like you support people to do. But some people could feel I have no sense of art or creativity. How am I going to create, love in my home? Or, would your camps are supportive to guide individuals, and obviously they're very, you have specific focuses for some of your camps, but I'd love to talk about that a bit, because I think it's a valuable resource, because people could be listening to this, watching this, and go, oh my gosh, okay, I really want to get my home dialed in. This is like, I've been wanting to do this. Okay, but I don't even know where to start. Okay, I'll clean. Okay, but then what? Like, do I just go to Home Goods and like just buy things? And no.
Well, the absolute easiest thing that you can do is, once you have your home all decluttered and cleaned and all of that stuff, I have this very basic little ebook that you could go through and start intentionally setting up your home. It's Feng Shui 101. I'll send you the link for it. Cool. It's like, it's like accessible to everyone. The camps are a little bit bigger, but they're still very affordable, and they're big in terms of material. There's Cash, which is next this year. Then Breakthroughs, which has to do with your alignment and up leveling your life. It's a lot of chakra feng shui. And then finally, the Love Camp, which is so incredibly important. And then we start again with the Decluttering Catalyst Camp. So it cycles through the year where there's always something that you can be focused on, because I'm a believer, your whole life affects your whole life. So I have people who join the Love Camp and they make a ton of money or have some career breakthrough. There are people who go to work on the Breakthrough Camp and declutter their whole entire universe. It's funny how each one lands for certain people, but everything affects everything. Like you go to work on, one of the reasons why I think abundance is such a big topic is abundance. Yeah, we could say it's not all about money, but for a lot of people, it is specifically about money. But why people feel challenged with money can be because of relationships, can be because of creative blocks or invalidation, can be about confidence, can be about a lack of clarity as to where you even belong or needing to cultivate talents. It involves your whole life. It's not
Totally.
just, oh, I missed the money class about something. There's so much that is awesome, that when you develop all different parts of your life, it will make you more abundant. It's amazing. And same thing goes for love. Like, love isn't just because, you happen to be in the right place at the right time and meet a specific person.
Mhm.
It's all the things you love in your life. It's how you feel about yourself. It's all of those different aspects that involve everything, including money, including your self-value, including your family and your legacy and your wisdom and the whole picture. So I think everything is integrated. And I always tell people, follow what feels best to you, even if it feels like it's completely unrelated to what you need right now. Like, I know people who really needed to pivot their careers last year.
Mhm.
And the first thing that they did was take like a painting class, like a little painting class or a little drawing class. And they were being criticized for it, but that was the stuff that got them into a headspace to make a shift. It's not that you have to just be so linear. Really follow your feelings and it'll guide you to things that you wouldn't expect.
I love all of that. Dana, so many things about what you just said were so powerful. I'm jumping back into Cash Camp. Like, I want to go through it again because it's so much fun. And I love, my whole brand is holistic high performance. Holistic, very important emphasis on that word, because everything affects everything. So and I think it's so powerful how you said, like, one might not recognize that. You might be thinking, oh, the way for me to make more money is, to do the money class and to save the money and to get a job or I can get paid more. But maybe not. Maybe it's, you have to fix things internally. You need to kind of take care of your environment and your relationships, and because everything is energy. And so all of it, like you said, so beautifully and powerfully, is going to affect everything else. So I really love even the focuses that you have in with your camps. And also I want to just put this in really to like illuminate what we're talking about and the value of it. I'm a firm believer. I'm a geek. I wake up early and I read every morning, and psychology, neuroscience, and I love learning. Number one, so like the process of actually learning. And number two, I really love what I'm learning and what it's doing for me in every aspect of my life. I'm also a creative, right? I'm an artist, and I do take time to really integrate, obviously I journal, but I do draw and sketch and do other things like that. I think that it's so important to constantly enroll ourselves in some form of higher learning, like where we're always learning something, and even also creativity. This is going to keep us younger. It's going to neuroplasticity, right? Which is something that, we can keep, gaining throughout our life. We have science to back that. But also just of how it makes you feel internally, and then how that is affecting every other part of your life. So I just want to put emphasis here to our listeners and our viewers. Like, listen, if, maybe it's not another course on, how to, I don't know, whatever, like something like hardcore, like do something that feels more fun, more interesting, maybe more abstract. And so I just really want people to, take advantage. I mean, you said you have Cash Camp coming up. Can you tell me when that is? Is it March?
It's in March,
Okay.
and then afterward it just rolls like every kind of like 8 to 10 weeks. There's a new one.
Okay, perfect. Because this episode is going to come out in the top of March. So I'm going to make sure that there's emphasis to go there. But yeah, I mean, as someone who, my whole brand, everything that I do, this podcast is here to empower individuals to live from their fullest potential. And part of that is, we have strategies, we have tactics, information, but resources too. Like, okay, what could I do? What can I get myself in? And I just think that, I feel so inspired by it, that, you offer these incredible programs that can offer this to someone, to get more creative, all the things. Yeah.
You've done a camp, but one of the things about them that I really value is that people, use the work in their own personal ways. As I said, this isn't feng shui you can get wrong.
Right.
And some people who join who don't know a lot about me, they're like, how do I do this right? I'm like, guess what? You're never going to get it all right. There's no such thing. And it's so freeing for people because it's very scary to do any sort of discipline that you're told if you get it wrong, something bad will happen, or you won't be lucky, or you won't. There's none of that in my whole universe, whether you read an email or a blog post or whatever. There are lots of ways to engage with the work. To me, the most important thing is that people use it. And so whatever it is, wherever you find any value in it, if you find any value in it, actually use it. And that to me is the greatest product. And there's all kinds of ways to expand on that. But the camps are so much fun, but there's just the key is to use it and know that you can't go wrong. One of the fun things that I've been doing, and I've been doing this all since the pandemic, is I've been getting these little books. I have like a whole pile of them, all these little like manifesting kind of course books, like old school ones.
Yeah.
So this is my latest one, and I'll share it with you because maybe you want to do it too. It's called It Works. It's like 30 pages long, and it was like $3 on Amazon. I think it might've been $4. Have you ever seen it?
No.
It's like this little pamphlet, and I put it actually in the camps to see if people had done it. And some people said they read it all the time and it's done like amazing things for them. And I was like, So I'm always looking for new things and new perspective. And it's just so basic. And it's like basically the person who wrote it, who doesn't even give their name, RHJ.
Wow. That's amazing.
Sold over 1.5 million of them.
Wow.
And it's this little tiny thing. And apparently, if you do the steps in this little book, which are really basic, apparently it works to manifest things. And it's stuff I've heard before, but it's very simplified. I like simple. So I'm going to do this and see what happens. And if anyone else who's listening,
I'm going to do it.
Email me and let me know what happens. I'm going to find out what happens, but I thought it was really cool that, it's not even real pages. They're like, you could see if you're watching the video of this, it's like a tiny pamphlet. You could probably fit everything in this book onto 3 pages. And, it's stuff you've heard before, but sometimes you hear something in a different way, or something's distilled down into something so simple. This is 3 steps in this book, and you're supposed to booklet, pamphlet, whatever you want to call it. That's it. And to me, I think things are pretty easy that we make more difficult. So this really resonated with me.
Yeah. No, I love that. I'm totally going to order it and check it out. I want to try. I mean, it's just fun, it's just, as a curious individual, I am just very open, and I like to experiment, Yeah, I'm going to check that out. I love that you put that in there. Thank you.
It's really fun to me just to have something new, like a new way to look at things, a new way to think about something. We've heard so many things over and over and over again, and sometimes they get so complex. Like the last moment I will give on abundance is like that idea of money blocks destroys people's lives. And I am all about, I understand there are limiting beliefs people have, and we all have them. I have them, ideas about money and all sorts of things, and money traumas and all kinds of things. Yes, I have every single one of them, probably 1 million of them. And I used to, before I knew that these things existed, I always had a lot of money, and I was always surrounded by a life, which was like very cinematic and like out of a movie. It was incredible. And I never had a problem until I decided, like I said, that I was broken and I was going to go figure things out. And the minute I started getting so lost in this ideology of not just improving, but basically took on this idea that until I get rid of all these money blocks I didn't even know existed, that I wasn't going to make money, that I became, for the first time in my life, in debt. For the first time in my life,
so interesting,
messed up. And it wasn't just me. Clients since then have come to me and been like, what the hell is going on with me? I always had no problem with money until I started doing all this stuff. Why am I having these problems? I'm like, because you're focused on all these blocks that don't exist. Like you're never going to erase your brain.
Attention,
you can absolutely. And I think it's so valuable to do the work of letting go of limiting beliefs. but do not let that be the heartbeat of your life. Don't let that be the until this, then that. It's just an amplifier. It just makes things bigger and better. But
Oh
it's
my gosh,
not,
totally.
it's not the until I get rid of my money blocks, I can't do this. And don't focus on them. Like
I
if you
love that.
like, I'm telling you, I've seen it wreck so many people's lives.
Yeah.
Because it's such a dark hole where you could say, well, there was that time that someone said I couldn't afford this, and then this, and then I had that happen, and then this money trauma, I lost that money, I made this bad deal, I had this happen, my parents.
You're just taking ownership of it. And anything that you're taking ownership, I mean, you're literally, you're owning it. You're, and I thought that comes to my mind is if somebody's, let's just say they're trying to call in more abundance, more prosperity, become more affluent. And maybe it's not happening fast enough. Then the default setting could be, well, because I have money blocks, because I have these, so I'm with you, like on limiting beliefs. I'm very particular about language, period. Words are an experience to me, in my opinion. So, I don't ever use words that really operate from this sense of lack. And I'm for sure I'm with you, like throughout, because I come from humble beginnings as well. And so there were not limiting beliefs necessarily, but more of like language around money. That was for me more of what I had to kind of, get into a better state, which I have. But I do think there's something so powerful about what you just said. People could get really, like any habit, really comfortable with their issues. It can be even an issue that they are harboring that's not really even an issue anymore, but you're harboring it because it's almost like giving you a reason why the thing isn't or is. And that becomes a comfort zone. And you're saying like, no.
Well, yeah. And I think sometimes people don't even know about this stuff. They don't even know. And then once they discover, oh, wait, I can eliminate my money blocks and become more prosperous. That is absolutely true. You will absolutely become more prosperous as you work on this, but not if you get wholesale invested in this, because it's going to be really maniacal, because you're never going to get rid of all of it. You don't need to get rid of all of it. I know tons and tons and tons of people who are very, very wealthy who have plenty of hangups about money. Totally. No, it's so if you could, reach a level of 0.01% and still be hung up on money and all kinds of other things, it's okay. Yeah. You're never going to have a perfect mindset about anything. It's just a matter of like really moving forward. And again, that whole sense of like creating your space, creating the things that you want. And like, I love what you said, like really building this life. Like it's so fun to actually build things.
It really is. I think it's just it's just more fulfilling. You're really a part of your process. And when you are a part of your process, you can extract more of the nuanced pieces of the process and just everything. You're just more integrated. You can feel more. And, this in my life, I mean, this is what, everything that I've come to gain in my life is the result of me being so integrated into my process, So
awesome.
I love this talk. I want to ask you, there's two things I love to do with my guests before I wrap out. But before I even go there, is there anything that we haven't spoke about that you want to live in this conversation? This was another home run with you. And I really, again, I want to just, guide people. If you haven't taken in episode 30 with Dana, you need to go back and listen because it was so killer as well. But is there
I'm going to go back and listen. Thank you.
It's so good. It's so good. I loved it. It was so fun. Anything else though that you want to live in this conversation?
I think we've taught, you've asked again, such amazing questions. If anyone has questions, feel free to reach out and ask. And I would say, by all means, try something first and see what happens in your space. Like really, I just can't stress enough, like take a small action and make it something you don't force yourself to do. And always reach out if you have questions, but just try to take things a little bit slower at the start. And for someone who's an all or nothing person by nature, really getting that for myself has made things move a lot faster. So if that's one word I could leave someone with, it's like paste.
One of the things in my wrap up that I like to ask my guests, and I'm wondering if this would be it, if you just kind of answered it, but one of the questions is, or the question is, if you had a magic wand and you could give the masses one positive habit that would have a massive positive ripple effect in their life, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. That's a really interesting question. If there was just one thing, self-love.
Yeah. I mean, that's my whole brand is about that. Yeah. Self-love.
Self-love. I had done, I don't know if you've ever, I'd done something called saffaie. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a belief changing modality. It's really cool. And I'm always, like I said, even though I don't dwell in these things, I always love doing anything, trying anything that's supposed to have an optimizing effect. And I did something in saffaie with a practitioner. If you could find a practitioner near you, they have a rundown of core beliefs and they kind of muscle test them on you to see what core beliefs you have in your subconscious and which you don't. And it's like, I love myself, and my arm like fell down and I was like, but I do love myself. And it's like, but it's not an installed core belief in your subconscious. And that's common. It's like 98% of the people who go do this thing don't have, I love myself as like one of their actual core beliefs. So we did a whole thing together to put it in my subconscious. And then I had to do these things to practice it. And I really did notice the difference in that one specific thing. And it stayed with me because I was so shocked. I thought it was just some people who didn't deeply integrate this idea of I love myself. But when I heard that it was so common, I was like,
yeah.
And now it's one of the first things that I look at when I'm talking to people and I think about for my own self. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's where all confidence comes from, magnetism, all that stuff is like not caring what people think about you, not worrying if,
Yeah. You prioritize how you feel about you above all else. And that literally, my listeners, my community know, that's one of the things that I'm most known for in my thought leadership is self-love. It's part of my core teachings in it. And I love that you said that's where confidence comes from, because I have a whole 5S formula that, it's sequential, self-awareness, self-connection, self-love, self-confidence, self-trust, right? And this is really the path of self-mastery. And you really, when you have a deep sense of self-trust, you are so integrated in self, you have your core beliefs, your core values down. And this is what, how I frame it. It's like, it's what puts you in the arena to do the hard shit that's going to help you build the confidence. And that's an operation that's coming from self-worth. Self-worth lives in self-love. And so just for a fun offering, because I don't think you've heard me say this before, but I have this whole, it's really a concept that I've come up with, or rather a phrase, I should say, but self-love is the queen of battle. I love that. Isn't it so cool? Because it's like, she is what is not only positioning you to do the hard things that are essential for your growth and to get to the things that you want to achieve and, actualize in your life, but it's also what's helping you. She's helping you in that process. So I love that you took us there. I can talk about self-love and often do for hours, for days. So I love that. Thank you with your magic wand. Self-love, people. So good. Okay. The last bit of this conversation is I have a series of words that I'm going to rapid fire at you. You do not have to be rapid in your response. It doesn't have to be a one word response, or it could be. It's just whatever comes top of mind, top of heart when you hear the words.
Got it.
Okay. First word is love.
Passion.
Next word is fear.
Calm.
That. Next word is challenge.
Exciting.
Next word is curiosity.
Creativity.
Love it. Next word is courage.
Working out.
I love it. Next word is passion.
Food.
Yeah. Two more. Next word is resilience.
Ooh. I think about art supplies.
Oh, that's amazing. Really? I'm like, that's so, I often get the ooh before when somebody gets resilience, but I've never heard art supplies before. So that's amazing. Excellence. Final word.
Everybody.
I love that. You are amazing. Dana, thank you so, so, so much with all of my heart for the time, for the energy, and really for just how you show up in the world as an absolute empowering contributor, a force of life. I so appreciate you. And again, everything will be in the show notes, but if you want to direct people to your amazing Instagram, your website, and then you also, I know we didn't talk about it, but it will be there with, the other, the ebook and stuff, but you have a school that is about to launch, School of Intention, for those who want to become a Feng Shui pro, right? So if you want to just give shout outs, yeah.
Really simple. Everything on the internet is pretty much the Tao of Dana, Tao, and then Tao of Dana. So you could find me pretty much everywhere as the Tao of Dana. And the school and all the camps and everything are at fengshuimagical.com. So Feng Shui, FENGSHUI, and then magical.com.
Thank you so much, Dana. Seriously, I'm looking forward to spending more time with you, whether it's online, supporting you, being in your camps, just collaborating more with you this year. And again, thank you. Just thank you with all my heart for everything that you do and really all that you are. Thank you, girl.
Thank you so much. This was amazing to come back, and it's incredible. And I love everything that you're doing. So this was amazing. Thank you so much. And I'm here, whatever you need.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, girl. To be continued. Bye, everyone.